Huh? Very, very cool.
Active cave.
Watch your head here, please. All right, watch your head here, please.
You can tell how much it's been raining.
Pretty awesome cave. Wow.
All right, folks, well, welcome to the Ozarks. This region of America consists of southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and bits of Kansas and Oklahoma. In this region, we are home to over 10,000 cave systems. Over 7,000 of those are right here in Missouri, and that's why you'll often hear us referred to as the cave state. Now, where you're at in the cave is called the twilight zone. Each cave system has 3 zones. Back behind us, if there weren't a door, that would be the light or the entry zone. Ahead of us is the dark zone, because it's dark. Now, the twilight zone is just where the light and the dark meet, and this is also the furthest that animals from the outside would come in and search for food or shelter, as there generally isn't anything available for them up ahead in the dark zone. Now, speaking of food, over here on the left-hand side of the tram, what we have is the last remaining garden bed. This garden bed was put in here during the Great Depression by the cave owner who needed to bring in some extra cash for his family.
Snake.
So he put in 8 to 10 garden beds where he planted mushrooms. Mushrooms are a fungus and not a plant, and so they don't need light to grow. He harvested those mushrooms and then took them to Springfield, where he sold them to the local grocery stores and restaurants. Now, something else here in the cave that doesn't need light to grow are the formations. Here on the ceiling, it looks like 100 little wax strippings, but these are in fact the very beginnings of cave formations. But I want to show you a few of the different types of formations you'll see throughout your tour today up ahead at the next stop. Now this special group of stalactites here, these are called the cave curtains or cave drapery. And how they're formed is that water will hit an incline and the formation will grow at an angle instead of straight down. Now another formation you'll see around the floor today is flowstone. Flowstone is created when water rushes between two limestone beds and picks up minerals along the way. This flowstone here picks up some iron, giving it that nice rusty red color. So it could be any color depending on the mineral it's picked up. Now it is impossible for us to know exactly how old our cave is, but we have an idea of how fast the formations are growing. And that is 1 cubic inch every 100 years. That's real slow. The reason why we have this information is because there is one formation here in the cave that we do know the age of, and I'm actually going to take you guys to go see that next. The landowner above built a house, and with the house, of course, you need water. Well, he knew that this cave system was beneath his property, and so he got permission from the owner to drill for this well. After a few days of measuring on the surface, however, he determined that if he were to put this well casing here, it would miss the cave by about 10 feet on the other side of this wall. And he was wrong.
Yep.
And so, instead of risking more damage to the cave owner gave permission for him to continue to drill here. And we're thankful that he did so, because shortly after this was put in, a cave curtain began to grow. Now this cave curtain is 79 years old this year. And at 79 years old, its longest length is just over 3/4 of an inch long. And so that's where we get our estimated growth rate of 1 cubic inch every 100 years, is because of this formation here. Now to head at our next stop, I'm going to show you guys the different types of lighting systems that we've used here in the cave since its exploration in 1867.
Is this a stalagmite?
So, there are only 2 places in the world that you can experience true natural darkness. One of those places is at the bottom of the ocean, and the other is in the dark zone of the cave. We happen to be in the dark zone, so we're going to shut the lights out. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Now, it is so dark in here that experts tell us that if we were to remain in this state of darkness for more than 40 days, we would go permanently blind. And this is because our eyes will never adjust to this. But don't fret, I've only got you for an hour. Now, the first source of light to come through Fantastic Caverns was a single flame candle. Now, it is a significant improvement, as I can tell that there are people in front of me. However, I would have to be dangerously close to you with my flame to know who you are. And that could be just as bad as walking around here with no lights on. And so, 20 years after its exploration, we got the Edison bulb. Now, the thing with the Edison bulb is that, well, back in the 1800s, electricity was like liquid magic. And so people from hundreds of miles away would come through not just to see our cave, but to see how it worked. Now, we were the first cave west of the Mississippi to have electricity. Well, you're supposed to be able to see it to the lower level here, but again, it's like Fantastic Caverns. So, the water is flowing from this direction here to this direction here. And whenever it's flowing, it does two things. It's bringing in fresh oxygen into the cave, so we will never suffocate, though after 40 days we may go blind, and that is the trade-off. But this water is also bringing in nutrients to the life that lives on the lower level. This life includes the Ozarks Cave fish, the Ozarks Cave crayfish, and the Ozarks Cave salamander, all of which can be found in this direction here, where there is an opening that you crawl into, and then afterwards you would be hunched over or on your belly for about an hour until you reach what we call the Paradise Room. Now, they call it the Paradise Room because after that hour, it's just paradise to be able to stand up and really stretch your body out. Now, our lower level is 3.5 miles of twists and turns, but it will eventually connect to our other sinkhole, and that's how the water moves throughout the lower level. Up here on the upper level, though, we are home to 25 to 30 tricolor bats. They are very tiny, about the size of your thumb, with a wingspan of about 4 inches. And though they don't typically come down here during tourist hours, they will sometimes be seen flying around in search of their favorite food, which is insects. And though we haven't seen any today, if you do happen to spot one, just know that it's solitary. And so it'll usually just be that one, unless they're hunting, and then they'll travel in packs of between 2 to 4. But they're not known to swarm like you would think bats do. All right, well, up ahead we're going to learn more about the cave itself and how it was discovered. It's just crazy. Yesterday I had a yell over the stream, and today it's super quiet. All right. Here we go. his dog. His dog caught sight of their prey, chased it over a hill and into a hole where he vanished. Well, John chased his dog into that same hole, and after a few minutes of crawling around, he noticed that he could stand completely up. And that's how he knew that there was a cave here. Well, at that time, he didn't want anybody knowing about it, so he got his dog out and covered that hole with some brush. After 5 years, he put an ad out in the Springfield newspaper asking the locals to come in and explore his cave. Well, that ad was responded to by the Springfield Athletics Club, and 2 weeks later, they agreed to meet with John at his house. Well, John got a huge shock when he opened the door to find that the Springfield Athletics Club was 12 young women. And those 12 young women became the first to explore the cave. And up ahead at our next stop, I'm going to show you where they wrote their names on the wall during their first exploration of Fantastic Cavern. not to happen. So he kept this cave a secret. Now, the reason why they were looking for caves is because they found something in the soil that would benefit them in the war. And that something is saltpeter. And they would come into caves to mine it. And I'll show you how they did that. So they would come into the cave and build a hopper or a leaching valve. That's this here. And they would fill it up with cave soil. And they would pour water on that cave soil and mix it up with a big stick or whatever they had until a sludge came out of the bottom. They would take that bucket of sludge outside where a kettle was already over the fire, and they would boil it away until the only thing that was left was the saltpeter crystal. They took the crystal and ground it up, and then they mixed it with sulfur and potash. And that's how they got gunpowder. Now, the reason why they could get this out of cave soil is because caves are associated with bats. And it was said that the bat droppings is what contained the saltpeter. And so we're lucky that John kept this cave a secret because there are only 25 or 30 bats here. And so they would have mined this cave for nothing. And so we're able to give tours today because John kept this cave a secret. Now, up ahead at our next stop, I'm going to take you guys to a place that we call the Breakdown. And there I'd like to tell you guys more about how earthquakes affect the cave. for 3 days. And that was the most powerful earthquake in American history that was ever recorded. So, given that information, that earthquake, nor any other earthquake since then, has ever been proven to have an effect on caves. We've learned that the reason for that is because earthquakes mainly affect the surface of the earth, not necessarily the subsurface. So in theory, we should be safe in the cave during an earthquake. So I would not trust it in this room. Now, what happened in here was before Fantastic Caverns was a cave, it actually was an underground river system. All of these rooms and passages were all carved out by water. And as that water rose and fell to create the cave, it caused the ceiling in here to become weakened and it collapsed 3 different times. Here, just above us, is the first time it had collapsed. This shelf here, the second. And the shoe print in the center is the third. Now that it's in a dome shape, we're told that it's sound construction because all of the sides of the ceiling are being held up evenly. Now we do know that this happened quite some time ago because given our growth rate and the size of these formations, everything in here looks to be pretty solid. Now up ahead at our next stop, I'm going to show you guys what this cave looked like over 150 years ago when it was first explored by those 12 women. So this device here is similar to the same device that those 12 women used to come in and explore the cave. It's simply a candle that's been put into the hole of the side of the can and a wire handle put on top. I'm going to use this to go around the formation up ahead, and then I'll retrace some of their first steps into the cave.
She's not coming back.
The cave's original entrance is this direction. The women climbed on all the top levels to get to where I'm standing now. One of the main purposes of the can is to amplify the flame, turn it into more of a spotlight than just a candle. This can also protects the flame from any kind of drift or dust that may come through the cave that could extinguish it. Imagine exploring in here and stumbling across these. These are the twins. It's pretty rare to see large formations such as these grow so closely together, so I imagine they stopped to admire them for a time before moving on. They climbed up all of this here and went on into the breakdown area. After that, they were able to explore for a few hours up until that first sinkhole where they had to turn around. Discovering no other exits out of the cave, they knew they had to come back this direction here and go out the same way they came in to give John his report. Now this is how the women got to see the cave over 150 years ago. Imagine how jealous they would be if they got to see the cave the way that we get to see the cave today here in 2020. his owner, and then 5 years later, 12 women crawled into and out of that hole in order to explore it. Now, unfortunately, we do not have any photos of the first explorers, but what I do have is photos of the most recent. And these are for you guys to keep forever and always on behalf of Fantastic Caverns and myself as a way of saying thank you for coming out and exploring with us today. Now, my name is Reba, and I was a tour guide, and I'm going to shut this door real quick, but you guys feel free when you guys get home or wherever you go to make as many copies of that as you'd like. Give it to your friends, let them know that you had a better Thursday than they did.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to shut this door real quick. Oh, here it is.